Remember, we got splice and sync up stuff, right? So we're all gonna count down 3, 2, 1, and we're gonna do it, right? So, ready? The 3, 2, 1. All right, were we all on? Did we all clap on beat?
I think that was pretty synced up.
There you go. All right, it is a drums pod. We do talk about drums sometimes too, you know, right? So
everyone needs rhythm here.
yes. Hey all, it's Paul from Drums and Rums, where the backbeats meets the spirits. Want to know what a rum enthusiast is? It's someone who lives, breathes, immerses themselves into everything rum, from traveling to where rum is made, near and far, to having a home tiki bar. Well, that actually rhymes. I didn't even realize that when I wrote it. With over 600 different rums. And it all started off with 169 proof white rum. Yeah! I'd like to welcome to the podcast the Rum Travelers, Joe and Myssi.
Hello.
Hello. So, how you doing?
Doing well.
On this
cold
cold
spell.
We're freezing. It's cold here.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
like-
fair.
Yes, we were talking last night on the, and thanks again for being a guest on the biggest happy hour and a half an hour. Well, actually, it was a little bit more than a half an hour. I think it was 37 minutes, you know, but yeah, thanks for coming on, you know, our show at 8 p.m. every Friday night on Facebook Live, so Eastern time. So, yeah, we talked about our iguana alert, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we were seeing, you know, all the FWC postings about don't pick up the iguanas there. Don't bring them in your house. They're still alive.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, definitely don't throw. Definitely, if you throw them on the grill, they definitely will wake up
They
real
will wake
quick. Real quick.
And they'll be
We'll take
angry.
Yeah, they won't take long. So I'm here at their home tiki bar here. So thank you for inviting me to the. What's the name of the tiki bar?
Well, that's the hard part. We haven't been able to come up with a name yet. So
Oh.
right now it's just the Rum Traveler Bar. We sometimes refer to it as Flip Flops and Dreams.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lots of dreams.
There you go. So, but today flip flops are. We've got socks on though, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we have fuzzy slippers
Oh.
on. Because I can't bear to wear socks.
Winter boots. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And then the one time of the year, everyone brings their Uggs out. So,
Oh, yeah.
all right. So I guess enough talking about winter or cold, right? Let's get. We got to start talking about rum and traveling. So, your journey. Did your rum journey, start before 2005? You know. So I know you had a little bit of a story that you sent over, and how you started off. But was it 2005 or what was it before 2005?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I was 21 when I
Oh.
had my first sip of rum, but my dad always had a bottle of Bacardi in the house, and so that's kind of what I was exposed to as an early drinker.
Okay.
So I drank that and got familiar with that, and didn't really know much about it. Was just rum. I didn't really think much about it, but I kind of got a taste for it, and so early in my drinking career, I would indulge in really just rum. I tried other spirits, and I'm like, no, I don't like this. And I just love that whole kind of idea behind rum being from a tropical place, and having this kind of, you know, piratey background, this like anti-authoritative background of going against the rules, and it just appealed to me. So it's been rum since the very beginning for me.
Yeah, for me, I picked up a bottle of Captain Morgan in college, and it was Captain and Coke probably right up until 2005 when we discovered that 169 and the 169 proof rum. Just kind of, we realized there was stuff out there that we couldn't get at home.
Right. Okay.
And we were like, we have to have this. So we tried to figure out a way to get home. Didn't work out when we first tried to bring it back, but we figured it out eventually. And that kind of started it. Every trip after that, we decided, man, let's start, you know, expanding this and bringing stuff we can't find in the U.S.
Right. And I think that's an interesting part, right? For those of you that are listening to the podcast or watching, that are already immersed and know the rum world or enthusiast or whatever you want to call it, know there's a whole lot out there. But for those that aren't, that are listening to this, and again, most of our listeners, we try to kind of get in that middle ground, folks that are learning for the first time, so they get an opportunity to learn. Hey, there's more than just, you know, I don't have a sponsor for either one of them, so, you know, and I don't know if I'll lose the chance of having a sponsor for, you know, but again, we know a couple of the big names that we just mentioned, right? Captain and Bacardi, right? That's pretty much the big boys in the world, but there is so much more out there. I'll see behind, yes, you see behind it, right? There's so much and so many different things and places too. So where, so that started, you know, you mentioned your visit to St. Vincent in the Caribbean. So was So so were you travelers before you became Rum Travelers, or?
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a traveler. I didn't always have the means to go where I wanted to go, but travel was something that always was kind of in my spirit. And so I think the rum thing was there too. So kind of concurrently undeveloped, right? A love for rum and a love for travel. And when we got married, we had an opportunity to, you know, plan a honeymoon and have an excuse to go on a big trip. And so that's when I said, you know what, we're going to make this happen. I want to go somewhere that is outside of the U.S., not necessarily rum focused. It was more about the destination. We stayed on a little private island in St. Vincent.
Oh, cool.
That we had heard about, I think through, you know, one of the travel channels or something like that. It just sounded really great. Like, let's go to this exotic little island. And it wasn't until we got there that we learned about the rum. We knew we liked rum. We didn't know that they had this very special rum that they make there on the island.
The destination piqued my interest when I found out they filmed part of the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
They did.
Down there, so
They did a lot of filming
it's
for
kind of
Pirates.
exciting. And,
And the cast of Pirates of the Caribbean, so Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley, they stayed at the place where we had our honeymoon. So that was pretty special, knowing that some really cool people had stayed there before us. It must be great if, you know,
If they stayed
if
there.
they stayed there.
Yeah, right.
Now they said Johnny Depp was there too, but he didn't want to stay at the resort because they didn't have air conditioning. So he stayed on his yacht.
Oh, okay.
You know, anchored out in the harbor there. So
Yes, Johnny Depp. We love him, but we just can't understand him.
right. But yeah, to kind of like expand on your question, with St. Vincent, it was our first experience outside of the country, but it also was you know, like kind of a spark. We had gotten scuba certified right before our wedding so that we could dive on our honeymoon. So we were looking for destinations where we could scuba dive, but also had rum. So it kind of like started to get a little bit further, as time went on, a little bit further away from the scuba and a little bit closer to the rum searching. So that's kind of where we are now as we go a lot of places.
So you replace your tanks of oxygen for
rum,
yeah.
for sure.
So the yeah, I think that's always right. I mean, most people have that you know, vision of exactly what you said: the beach, the Caribbean, warm climate. I'm on vacation. You know, how many people do we probably you guys as well? You've met or started a rum company because they have went and visited, and this is what they want to do, and these things, and there's this whole mystique about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but then as we've expanded even further, we find out, oh, rum's pretty much made everywhere, right? Which kind of blows my mind every time. And I always say, why should I not be surprised rum's being made here, right? So, but yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's that sense of great cocktails that are definitely made and so forth. So so is that then right after that you started thinking about piecing some of this together to travel and tie the rum and the culture and places, travel like you start blogging, or do you start kind of?
What year did we start the Rum Traveler?
Oh, I don't have it written down. I want to say maybe like around 2010-ish.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Something, maybe 2012, somewhere in that range. So it was, years after we had that experience. But I think like going outside of the United States for the first time was kind of life-changing for me, and seeing how somebody else, how they live in a different country with different, different structure, different resources, different government, different priorities, right? So for me, going into, because we stayed on this little private island, but we also went to mainland St. Vincent. We went into Kingstown, the capital there, the big city. It's not a very big city, but
to them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, to them, I mean that's their capital, so that's their city. And what struck me as interesting, it sounds so strange, right? But just walking into all kinds of different establishments, and there's no air conditioning, right? So for Joe, that was a little challenging. I had to kind of twist his arm to get him to stay at this place because they didn't have AC in the rooms.
Well,
And it turns out you don't need it in the islands. It's just a different vibe, and you're not hot, you're comfortable because you have the trade winds and all of that. But yeah, kind of like something as simple as that, as people that they don't even think about that. Why would we worry about that? We're perfectly comfortable without it.
living in America, we have a lot of things that we kind of take for granted. Free refills of soda at a restaurant. Most other countries don't do that. That's something unique to us. So when you go into a restaurant, order a drink or Coca-Cola or whatever, it comes in a bottle. You don't get free refills, and if it is a fountain drink, yeah, you're going to pay for the next one, and so on. They look at you like you're crazy for asking for more. But like little cultural things that are different from location to location, that's kind of one of the things we kind of seek out. We look for the local culture, even in cities in the U.S. New Orleans has its own local culture, and we love to immerse ourselves into that. So part of our travel aspect is not just the rum or the location, but immersing ourselves into what the locals enjoy.
Because that's really where it's at, right?
That's the good stuff. You don't want the touristy things.
Yeah, the chain places. You want to know where, right? It may be probably may seem a little sketchy, right? Or a little kind of I'm not sure about this, but it's if the locals are saying it's so.
Yeah, and I feel like a place like St. Vincent that's not a tourist destination. I mean, most people have never even heard of this country, right? Don't know where it is. We show people on a map. They're like, oh, it's kind of near St. Lucia. I've heard of that. But they haven't heard of St. Vincent. And I think that's a great thing. I'm glad that was our first experience versus something that was more commercial or more touristy.
Right.
Because everything there, you kind of feel like a local. I mean, they pamper you at the resort, but they also, you get to know the people that work there. And, these are regular people.
And you're appreciative of that tourism, right? And they understand. And again,
oh sure,
it goes two ways, right? Those that travel, and a previous guest, couple podcast episodes ago, Brad Brock, he was a musician on the Holland America ships, and he saw a lot and traveled a lot and saw a lot of things. And he talked a little bit about that. Is the realization once you leave this big country of ours and see how the rest of the world is, it's such a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
So was that, it's interesting, Missy, so was that like, as you mentioned, traveling for the first time, was there a little bit of a culture shock? Your first time seeing, maybe?
yeah, I mean, culture shock, but in such a good way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it kind of woke me up and said, you know what, like life can be different.
Right.
And life can be incredible without some of these unnecessary, like what I never thought was unnecessary,
right.
but really is unnecessary things, and just being able to kind of see things in a different light.
Right. There's an appreciation now when we come home, right? It's like, like you said, Joe, is unlimited refills at the fast food place or whatever it may be, or whatever restaurant it may be, or.
Yeah, we have a lot of conveniences here that you don't have there, and so that's a little tricky to get used to. But the more I go and the more time I spend down there, the more that's what I want. And when I come back, like now, we just came back from Hawaii. We had been in the Caribbean a few months ago, and when you come back, I'm actually disappointed when I come back and I see these big roads and highways and fast food and all these giant stores. I'm like, oh. I miss the simple life. Yeah. So.
That's it's kind of like a lot of people feel, like living in the Keys. It's a different. It's probably the closest for the U.S. I guess, maybe than Puerto Rico and Hawaii, but it's an island. It's a different speed and pace. And my wife was offered a job to work down in Key West.
Oh yeah.
And she grew up in a landlocked state, and she feels a little uncomfortable about wanting to live out in the Keys. I was like, let's go. I was ready. I'm like, I'll do whatever. I'll go work on a boat. I'll quit my day job. And, yeah. Well, that's what her she said. I said, yeah, but that's it. You're there and you're riding it out in storms and.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that was before kids too. Yeah, it was before kids, so we didn't have to. So before 04 and 05. So again, you're talking hurricanes. So yeah, it's such a difference. You're right. It's that there's. So it's not so much as a letdown that your vacation's over, but it's just that I wanted to continue this. So
yeah, it's kind of like the transformation happens. I think, and not it doesn't happen for everyone. Some people really like that, kind of immersive experience of a resort, and they're pampered and they have everything that they need, and it's very relaxing. I mean, sometimes our vacations aren't particularly relaxing. Because I have this huge itinerary, like we got to go here and see this and this and this and this. I think the first time we went to Hawaii, we did 3 islands in 2 weeks. Wow. And I had a spreadsheet. I'm the planner, obviously. I had a spreadsheet with every hour of every day. blocked, like scheduling meetings. That's how I had planned for where we were going to go.
She failed to schedule lunch and dinner breaks.
Yeah, there was no food in the schedule, so we didn't eat. Most days it'd be like
Bathroom
9.
stops,
You don't got time for that. Yeah.
We'd have like a granola bar in the car on the way from
We
8
get
to
snacks
8.
into your purse, right?
I lost 10 pounds on that trip.
I know, and it was a very active trip. We weren't just laying on the beach. We were hiking and exploring and drinking rum. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I guess maybe I need to allocate time for meals. That's a problem I have. We do a similar thing with Tales of the Cocktail, an industry event they have in New Orleans in the summer. And it's there's 25 different things going on at any given time of the day, and you really have to plan your schedule that way to pick and choose the most important things. And I also do not schedule meal breaks in New Orleans.
So Joe, honestly, did she schedule bathroom breaks?
Nope.
Oh no.
And so you just happen, if you saw one, you better grab it quick,
So, yeah, and I think that's something about, when you mentioned it, you just came back from Hawaii, and we visited Hawaii over about 16 years ago.
Oh, fun.
For a friend's wedding, and we went there, and it's I look back now. Once we got there, it was shame on us, because we're like, okay, we live in Florida, and then it's like, and we went to Maui, and she was 8 months, six months, and pregnant, and we're there at the wedding, and I kicked myself for not doing some of these things, and some of it was around money too, right? It was like,
Yeah.
We should have went to Pearl Harbor, because how many times do I think I'm going to go back to Hawaii, right?
Yes.
Or a certain place, and we we should have done that, and we didn't. So that means, okay, should we go back? But it was interesting, was like, all right, we got beaches, we have the ocean here in Florida, but it was like towards the end, and then we both got sick on that trip. But towards the end, I was so sick and I didn't care that I got a speeding ticket.
Really?
Going from one side of the island to the other. And then she thought I was going to get arrested because I was starting to argue with the cop because I was a mainlander. And anyway, but that's a whole nother story. That's about Paul's speeding ticket podcast is a separate podcast. But yeah, we went up to the top of Mount Hakaludi.
Haleakala.
Yes, sorry. We always say it.
I don't know if it's Haleakala or Haleakala. It's been said
That's a tricky one. I always say it wrong.
Yes.
I'm guaranteed to say it wrong.
The last day we were on the beach and feeling better, and we're standing there, and I said, it finally hit, was because I said, we may have the beach, we may have the water, but what we don't have in Florida is, when I was pointing behind me, it was the mountains, right? And so forth. So I'm like, okay, Volcano Bay, Universal, it doesn't count, okay,
That's a plastic mountain.
Yeah.
We have our garbage mountains down
Yes,
there.
that's true. That's right. We do have our. Well, wait a minute. There was a hill that I saw just all around the corner. So it's like, wait a minute. There's some hills. But yeah, it's awesome to. I think that's like you said, is to the opportunity to go somewhere and experience it. What's it like? What's the culture? And then to be very open. You got to be open.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You got to be so open to do that. So that's pretty cool. So.
Well, our first trip to Hawaii, like she said, we did 3 islands. It was originally supposed to just be Maui for
It was
a week.
supposed to be 2 weeks on Maui, laying on the beach, like you said. And then we started looking, and Joe was like, I want to go to Pearl Harbor. And I said, well, I want to go to Oahu too, because, my dad was stationed there when he was in the military, and I'd love to see that. So we're like, okay, well, I guess we have to, and there's not a boat or anything. It's too far. You have to fly. I said, well, all right, I guess we'll go to Oahu for a few days, and then Maui to relax on the beach.
And then it became, well, we're going all this way. We want to see a volcano.
And guess what? That's a different island.
Big island, right?
Yep, here's a big island.
Right.
But we did manage to scrounge up some rum to bring back in Hawaii the first trip.
We did.
Not realizing that rum was even a thing they did in Hawaii. So that was something we learned on that trip.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like almost everywhere we go, even if it's not specifically traveling for rum, we can find rum.
Yeah, somebody's making it.
Somebody's making something somewhere, in just about every little corner of the world.
So that's I would consider starting down more of that rum path. We had obviously big fans of Sammy Hagar, right? So obviously knowing about the tequila brand, And then once he sold the tequila brand, and went and started making rum, we're like, oh, we gotta try this beach bar rum. Finally found it in a store locally. And of course, when I asked people, they're like, what are you talking about? So we finally got the bottle, brought it home, tried it. We're like, I don't know about this. And then we tried it with a little bit of soda, maybe, rum and coke. We're like, I don't know. And again, it wasn't until we started learning, it's what most people are accustomed to is more than a molasses based or more of the things that are in the Caribbean we used to, but there's the cane versions of stuff. So it's, there's like I said, I had a guest on, they're making rum in Scotland.
They are, yeah.
And it's like, so.
Well, and again, tying in music to the travel, rum, and tiki, we were actually in Kauai recently, and there's a tiki bar out there called Tiki Niki, and Todd Rundgren is the owner.
Oh, okay.
So
very cool.
I hate to admit it, but I'm not real sure yet who that is. We've been to this bar 3 times now, and every time I post about it, I'm like, oh, that's Todd Rundgren's bar. And I'm like, great! Who's that?
All right, so now I'm going to try to remember here. So I think we'll edit this out if I'm wrong, but I want to think he wrote that song, the song you would always hear like on a radio station on Fridays. It's a big sports anthem song to do all the time. Hey, da 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 da.
Rock and Roll Part 2 or whatever it's called, something like that. Yeah.
Maybe.
He's like he's got he's known. People know him of him,
Yeah.
but don't really know.
Yeah,
what
if
he
you-
is.
Some people
More of a-
are really huge fans.
Yeah.
I think he's a very talented
Yeah.
musician from what I understand. I just haven't been exposed to his music. I think
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a gap, like with age, and people that are a couple years older than me
Yeah.
definitely know
Right.
who he is. People that are my age, maybe a little younger, have no idea.
Yeah, early '80s at least.
Yeah, and he's mostly known as being a songwriter.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
not a lot of people don't necessarily know songwriters, they know the performers and musicians. But so yeah, I think that's kind of maybe part of the reason a lot of people don't recognize him is that he's in the background writing the music.
Right. Songwriters, the richest people you don't know.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because they read all that stuff. So you mentioned Tales of the Cocktail. All right, so for those that don't know what that is, what is it?
Tales of the Cocktail. So Tales of the Cocktail, and pre-COVID, they've had it canceled the past couple of years because of COVID. But it's industry spirits gathering. So bartenders, bar owners, distillers, cocktail enthusiasts, rum, spirits enthusiasts, you name it. A whole smorgasbord of people go to New Orleans in the dead of summer. It's in July. It's
Super.
100 degrees and 200% humidity. You think Florida gets hot in the summer? Oh no, New Orleans is a whole other thing. So they pick that time of year because it's not busy, right? Because of the climate, it's so unbearably hot. But it's usually about 5 days long, and from 8, 9 in the morning until however late you can stay up at night, you have an opportunity to taste all kinds of spirits and cocktails. There are seminars throughout the day. There are pop-up bars, so bars that may be in London or Florida, they'll do a pop-up bar and they'll make some cocktails in a New Orleans bar.
Cool.
There's parties, there's after parties, extravagant lunches and dinners with rum brands or other spirits brands. So it's quite the event.
And it covers almost the entire French Quarter and even some of the outside areas outside the French Quarter because there's little courtyards and restaurants that sponsor events all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans has always been my favorite city. I love my islands, but
Right.
city-wise, New Orleans, no hands down. That's my favorite place. And what's great about Tales is they, like Joe's saying, they do all of these events, not just at their host hotel. Like they'll have it at a particular hotel and they'll have their seminars there, but they do stuff all over the city. And like you said, outside of the quarter too, which most tourists that go to New Orleans, they go to the French Quarter and they never see the rest of the city. So they do a great job of really, showcasing all these different places. So we've been exposed to so many great cocktail bars that we would have never known about or walked into if we
Right.
hadn't gone to this event.
And they often have like really, well, she was mentioning the seminars, they always have like really interesting topics for seminars, people that are really well known in the industry, spirits producers, writers, journalists that write about and study the industry and the history of spirits. And it's Tales of the Cocktail, for a real brief summary, could be called an experience for your mind and your liver. So it's really
It's not necessarily a good experience,
but
it's for your liver.
So then afterwards, this is when you go then take your vacation then, right?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have to take a little break after Tales. It's very intense. But it's the biggest spirits industry conference, definitely in the United States.
Okay.
I don't know if I can say the world. I haven't seen the whole world, but I mean, it's a big deal. People from all over the world come, and we've made so many amazing connections at that event. Rum and otherwise, we branch out a little bit. We try to just focus on the rum, but sometimes there's not a whole lot of rum. But
for example, a moonshine company from, was it Kentucky or Tennessee?
Tennessee, they're
Tennessee.
Gatlinburg.
Yeah, we were walking through an event called Meet the Distillers. Now, they had several distillers from different distilleries all over the country set up so you could taste some of their product, pick up a little swag, learn about the product. And we were flagged over to this moonshine booth, and we're like, well, we're specifically focused on the rum. He's like, well, funny you should say that. We have a couple of rum options, rum shines. They had a hazelnut rum, which is absolutely delicious and unique.
Yeah.
This isn't Mark and Digger's.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, look at that.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep, exactly.
That's the one.
And we had never heard of them.
Okay.
Went over, tasted some of their rum-based products, and they have a lot of rum creams, but the hazelnut really blew us away. So, we tracked it down in the stores here once we got back, and it was just neat because we wouldn't have gone up to that table if they hadn't waved us over, didn't have anybody in front of them at the time, and we learned something new.
Yeah.
Well, we're very thankful for that event. They kind of gave us our opportunity to really get Rum Traveler going. So our website, our social media, all the things that we do online, they actually gave us our first Tales of the Cocktail experience. We got an opportunity to be media for Tales. So that gave us access to interview some amazing people. We interviewed Nelson from Santa Teresa, or is it? Oh, I always mix them up.
Nelson from Diplomatica.
Nelson from Diplomatica, Nestor from Santa Teresa. So both rums are made in Venezuela, and the names are Nestor and Nelson are similar.
We've been drinking, so that's good. All right.
Started the day with a couple cocktails.
Yeah.
Both amazing people, so knowledgeable about rum. My brain just can't seem to keep them straight. But we got to interview both of these amazing people.
Wow.
One's a master blender, one's a master distiller.
Okay.
So a little bit different, job there with what they do. But yeah, we had these incredible opportunities as well to meet with some people that we probably would never meet. I mean, we're invited to Venezuela. One day we'll get there when it's a little quieter.
Yeah. As you said, kind of got that opportunity, cover the event, the website. You've got blogging. I love the website. I mean, you've got the way you've got it lined up, where you've got certain islands and locations, and again, if people want to check out, so rumtravelers.com.
Without the S though, rumtraveler.com.
Sorry, yes. I didn't read that, yes. I'm thinking plural, but yes.
Yeah. There are two of us, but
Well, we started it as Rum Traveler because we wanted to include everyone as rum travelers. So it's not about us, it's about what everybody can do to experience going to certain places and tracking down rum. It is just the two of us as rum travelers. We don't have like a crew or anything that tags along with us. So we wanted it to be more about the website and teaching people about traveling and rum, and not about us specifically.
Okay.
yep. But social media is tricky, so I think on Instagram it has to be plural because somebody already had the singular version. You have all those troubles.
Yes.
But the website is kind of our base, and so it's Rum Traveler is our.
So you have some of your videos out there. We were talking about before. You got a lot of stuff in the vault that you're ready to, you want to release, and and then also this journey has also gotten you into judging too, right?
It has.
So how did that become how did you become? Was that because of the credential, the media, or covering these events, or? I mean,
I think we did that before the first Tales we went to.
Yeah, we did that before the first time we judged.
Okay.
So we had gone to the Miami Rum Renaissance,
Okay.
and we got to meet the Burrs.
Mm-hmm.
Got to know them a little bit during our first trip to their event, and we saw all the awards being given out to the different rums who had won different medals, and we're like, oh wow, how do you become a judge for rum? So we started asking questions, and at the time, Missy was representing some rum brands, doing tastings and things like that. So we didn't want it to represent some type of conflict of interest.
Okay.
The Burrs knew that we had a large collection of rum, but because she was doing tastings for certain brands, we didn't want to give that impression that there was somebody could get some favoritism because of that connection.
Right.
So we went on a cruise with the Burrs, the rum cruise, and they got to know us a little bit better, talking about all the different brands and how we don't really necessarily weigh one higher than the other. We give every rum a fair chance. We like to endorse rum as a brand, not as rum as a spirit, not as a brand. And after she took us to a couple distilleries, and she said, you know what, you guys are really kind of the people we're looking for our consumer panel. And we're like, that sounds awesome. We should do that. And it's all blind taste testing. You don't know what the brands are ahead of time. And we did it a couple of times. We really enjoyed it. Gave us a really neat exposure to some brands we'd never seen, and kind of helped us develop our palates a little bit more.
Absolutely, yeah. You taste 25 rums kind of at a time, so they'll be categorized. So you'll taste aged rums together, you'll taste white rums together, you'll taste flavored rums together. I don't know what the last category is. Maybe the cachaças and the agricoles.
Mm-hmm.
So your palate's kind of toned into a particular thing. The flavored rums, that's always the tricky thing. You don't know what you're getting in that little cup. Like, you can look at the color, you can smell it, you can kind of guess, but you're getting everything from spice to coconut to guava to lime. I mean, you just so your palate's just burnt out.
All of us called the flavored rum category the palate killer.
It is.
Because at the end, I don't even want anything else right now, but.
Yeah, but one of the cool things about judging, so it's all blind, like Joe said. You just kind of know a little bit, like, okay, these are flavored rums or these are aged rums. So you rank them. You have different criteria that you use and a rating system, and then you also put your own little piece of paper. You put your tasting notes down of what you found in that particular spirit, and then at the end, you turn all that in, and it goes in for all the scoring and judging and for the medals. But you also, there's a reveal room at the end, and so we get smart. We take a picture of our sheet so we know what we liked and what we didn't, and then we can go to the reveal room and see, okay, what number 42, what was that? That one was so good. And you look at it, and sometimes you're like, that's just what I would expect, and other times you're like,
blown away.
wow, really? I would not think I would like that. So you learn a lot about yourself and your palate and what you truly like versus what you think you like.
Yeah, and that's the tastings is, and I think it's more than just when I say the tastings for the listeners is, seeing someplace at the local liquor store or trying to sample whatever. There's a true sense of it, and then again, there's a true sense of, as you mentioned, being a rummelier.
Rummelier, very good.
I got it. I practice all night. Is learning about tasting and learning into certain, because again, it's tasting. Again, it's just the word itself. It thinks of one sense, but when we talk about tasting, it's many senses, right? Whether it's the mouth, the nose, and again, just taking the full in. So just was recently certified as rummeliers. Now, what is that process?
Well, it's an online class.
Okay.
Basically, it's not like a scheduled thing. It's not live, but you go through at your pace and you learn a little bit about the history of rum, some interesting facts about rums, different locations where they make it, and you go through the course. And you also have a journal where you do tastings and write down what you're noticing, and it teaches you, whether it's the aroma, the taste on your palate, the texture on your tongue, it teaches you the different things to look for and what you're trying to develop your palate to find.
Okay.
Whether it's something that's grassy or earthy, or whether it's something that's floral or fruity. So it kind of teaches you how to do the tastings in a way that you can verbalize what you're experiencing with the taste.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing about developing your palate is being able to articulate what it is that you taste.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were just tasting a rum last night, this sugarloaf pineapple rum from Hawaii, and I smelled it, and my first little sip of it, I'm like, this is familiar. What is this? What is that taste? And you just, obviously pineapple. That's
right.
The easy one, right? But there's more to that.
Yeah, it didn't, like that first taste and then the aroma didn't quite take you right to pineapple. It was like, okay, there's something else going on in here, and it's probably the rum, the actual base spirit that's influencing what I'm smelling and tasting here.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing about the rums. You could have, like the best maceration of fruit or the best aging process, but if your base spirit isn't good going into that, it's probably not going to be very good coming out.
Foundation.
Absolutely. I mean, every time we visit a distillery, that's always the very first thing I want to taste. Let me taste your base spirit. If I can taste it off of the still, great, because I don't...
Yeah.
Water, diluting, proofing, whatever you want to call it. To me, I wish they would kind of take that step out and at least give you the option to taste, every distillery give you the option to taste the rum as it comes off the still. Even though it's high proof, and that's not for everyone. The character of the rum changes when you put water in it or ice in it. And sometimes it changes it for the better, sometimes not. But you're really not...
Sometimes it opens it up, sometimes it waters it down.
Right. But really to taste what that product really, really is, when it's first produced, you've got to taste it at still strength.
Yeah.
So you don't always get that opportunity, but it's great when you can, because then you can kind of taste through, let me taste your 40% version of that, see what that changes about it. Let me taste your aged version, and how does that change it?
So does it make you ever want to start making your own?
We've talked about it.
We have.
There's so much that goes into that, though. You really need, we would have to hire somebody who is a distiller, has either a degree in chemistry or...
Come on, there's YouTube. There's YouTube. Everything's on YouTube now.
My
That is
degree
true.
is in finance, which does not qualify me to be a distiller.
We've met some very interesting, people at distilleries that, have such a great background in their education that makes them perfect for running a distillery. They know, what they're looking for when they're setting up the fermentation, the actual still processing with the blending of, when you're diluting it down. They know just from the chemical aspect, what they're looking for. And, the taste confirms it.
Right. They are knowledgeable enough to get to the result. And I'm not knocking any moonshiners, but again, because a lot of moonshiners are generations.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if it's a DIY kind of sense, it takes you longer.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably get there, but to your
You'll get there eventually.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who started up distilleries, had no idea what they were doing at first, and have great products. It's just a matter of learning the process. And, and in some of those cases, it was a very lengthy learning process. There's a learning curve there. And, we just don't have the capital or the time to do it right now. So.
And I don't know that that's entirely like what we want to do in this industry. I think there are people that are much better at it than we are. But we have tossed around the idea though of taking a rum that's produced by somebody that we partner with
and putting our own spin on it.
Putting our own little spin on it, and maybe putting out an expression there that kind of ties in rum and travel together.
Yeah.
So
maybe
one day.
We also are starting to build connections with distilleries that have done barrel picks for organizations like Florida Rum Society. So maybe one day we could do the Rum Traveler barrel pick, and some of the local stores might be willing to pick it up and sell it for us.
Yeah, I don't know. I think every time we watch the show on TV, the Moonshiner show when they're competing and all that, it's interesting, and again, it's reality TV, right? But I mean, these are folks that are making stuff and have been doing it, but it's neat, I've tried doing a little bit of home brewing for it, and it's like, okay, to your point, all right, this is, again, I was talking earlier about being the impulsive creativity. It's like, all right, when's this rum going to be ready? You know, I want this now. You know, I can't want to wait. You know, let alone think about trying to age stuff in apparels, right? That's a whole. So.
It's a very complex category, and people don't realize that about rum because they're not often exposed to things beyond those couple of mainstream brands. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's a million things that can happen with fermentation. We've learned a lot about fermentation and how important and how much that affects your end spirit. What you're fermenting, how long you're fermenting, is it open or closed? What kind of yeast are you using? I mean, it's never in my wildest dreams would I think I would know as much about like yeast as I do now.
I should have paid better attention in biology and chemistry class.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was always good at the math side and not the practical side. I was always the girl that set the lab on fire, right? But I got 110% on my quiz, so that's part of the reason I think I should stay away from making my own spirit and probably blow something up.
Yeah, we come up with great ideas, just can't put them in motion.
Exactly.
It works. It's great on paper.
It is great on paper, but
there you go. Yes. So you mentioned a little bit of doing some marketing for a company while around the time you were doing the judging and so forth. So, Rum Girl.
yeah.
So is that something that you apply for? Is it as cool as it sounds?
She kind of took a roundabout approach to
Yeah,
that.
being a rum girl is actually kind of one of the best jobs in the world, right? So essentially you get paid to offer people tastes of rum. Maybe you sell some, maybe you don't, depends on what kind of event it is. But really just getting to be out there and teaching people just a little bit, giving them just a little bit more information about rum than they may have already known. So I got started with that with Blue Chair Bay Rum. If you guys aren't familiar with the brand, it's owned by Kenny Chesney. It's a country beachy musician who I'm a huge fan of. He spends a lot of time in my favorite place, or places, the British Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands. And I actually we found that rum many years ago.
It's right after it was released.
Yeah, right after it was released, they came out with 3 spirits originally. There was a white rum, there was a coconut rum, and then there was a coconut spiced rum. And at the time, many years ago, early in our rum journey, I used to drink coconut rum. I would drink Parrot Bay was my rum of choice back in the day. And Joe, like you said before, like Captain. And we saw this rum and we're like, well, hey, that's like our 2 favorite things put together. So we bought a bottle and we tasted it. We're like, this is fantastic. We both love it. Now we can just buy 1 bottle instead of 2 and we're good. So we became, and then I found out that it was Kenny Chesney's brand. And so I'm like, well, this is great. So this is my favorite rum now. So we started going to, at Epcot during Food and Wine Festival at Disney World, they would do, different spirits would come and do these little tastings or mixology classes. And I saw that Blue Chair Bay had one. I said, well, great, sign us up. So we went. And we
sat in the first row wearing her swag.
We had purchased Blue Chair Bay shirts from the website. And so we did. We were like,
excuse me, do you work here?
It was so funny. I mean, such like fangirl, fanboy groupies of Blue Chair. Sat in the first row. We were all excited. And the gentleman that was doing the tasting, the brand manager from Blue Chair, his name's Frank, he saw us, of course, and he's like, look at you guys, you really like this brand. Here's an extra shot for you. Hey, great. Well, after the event, we went up and thanked him and just chatted with him for a little while. And somehow we got to the point of, hey, if you're ever available he asked me if we were ever available to do tastings in Florida, let me know. I think you'd be a great representative of our brand. And I said, well, that sounds fantastic. So shortly thereafter, I had the opportunity to do my very first tasting. It was in Kissimmee, it's some little liquor store, and we tasted the coconut spice rum cream, which is it's in a red bottle. It's kind of like coquito, which is a Puerto Rican holiday drink, kind of cinnamon and clove and cream and
more
rum.
Coconut, yeah.
And I did that, and I was hooked. I was like, this is great. I can't believe they're paying me to do this. Like, this is fantastic. So I represented Blue Chair as a rum girl, so it's kind of like freelance, basically. A lot of times with these tastings, they hire just models from an agency that don't know anything about rum or that particular product. So
often they'll go, here's a shot.
Yeah.
when they're doing the tasting.
I mean, everybody's been to Total Wine and done
Yeah.
a tasting, and the people, a lot of times, the people doing the tasting aren't really from that brand, right? They're just generic, and they're tasting whatever spirit they handed them when they walked in the door. So I think the people that at Blue Chair were excited when they found somebody that was really passionate, knew about the product, knew about Kenny, and was passionate about all those things. So we blossomed, and Joe eventually became a
I'm
rum girl.
too.
Oh.
We were working.
Make you wear the same outfit?
I chose my own.
Okay.
I did wear the Blue Chair T-shirt.
We were able to get him something a little larger than a small.
Yeah. No busty tank tops.
No tank top. No, but we were. I was signed on to work the Hukilau event, which is a tiki convention in Fort Lauderdale. Again, pre-COVID, that they would have every year. And we show up, and we didn't have enough. We had like one other person, I think, working, plus one of the brand managers. And it's a big event, right? And people are all about the rum and the cocktails, and it was
the way it got brought in was I think they had somebody not show up, or they had two events going on at the same
I
time
think
or
we
something.
added an event. So we needed help, and Joe was with me because we were both kind of attending this little fun thing that we had found as well.
I already had a T-shirt.
You had a shirt, so they're like, put on the shirt, put you to work. So Joe became a rum girl as well, which is fun. But I've also done tastings for another brand I'm pretty passionate about, which is Koloa Rum, which is made in Kauai, where we just recently came back from. And we got to know one of the brand managers for that at the Hukilau, because their table was next to the Blue Chair table when we were working. And so we just, the
connections, right?
I
They
think
make friends very easily.
the great thing about rum is when you're at an event like that and there may be 10 different rum brands, it's not a competition. Like, people aren't, my rum is better than your rum. People are, instead, what we find is people like, hey, what you got over there? Let me taste that. Ooh, that tastes good. Let me mix that with mine. What does that do? It's there's a lot of camaraderie in the spirit versus competition. Everybody's very supportive of everyone else. And so we had met one of the brand managers for Koloa. She was next door, and we got to talking and became friends with her. We love the rum. They make a coffee rum that is incredible. If you have not had that Koloa coffee, good stuff. So months later, kind of same thing. Like, she was looking for someone to do tastings in the area where I am, and asked if I knew anybody. And I'm like, well, no, but I can do it. So I got started doing tastings for them. Kind of same thing. They had never had someone doing tastings that was passionate about their product. We've even been to Koloa's distillery, which is not open to the public. Most people have never even been to Kauai, much less to Koloa's distillery. But I could do a tasting and I could tell people, hey, they'd say, oh, is this really made in Hawaii? I'm like, yeah, actually it is. And here's how they make it. And here's what's great about it. So it's been a really cool opportunity and to have that access to the spirits industry through doing these tastings. We've been able to meet a lot of people and attend a lot of events.
Well, that's another thing there. You've been able to work events that we might not have necessarily attended otherwise.
Right.
And, that gave us even more exposure to other brands and other connections in the industry.
It's cool that, we took, this initial fun thing, right? And it's kind of evolved and it's grown and again, met different people, opportunities, and the crew. I know the birds have talked about when I've talked to them about the rum cruise and which is like, so I'm like, all right, okay, yeah, sure, sign me up, and that's kind of. Did you get a chance to meet Kenny?
Indirectly.
Well,
I've been to a few concerts, some connections through Blue Chair, but the one big one that I said I always wanted to do and just did what it took to get there was in Tampa a few years ago. He has a big show at the Buccaneers Stadium. I don't know how many thousands and thousands of people. I mean, the whole entire stadium is full of people. Again, pre-COVID. Everything's pre-COVID.
The old days.
We bought tickets.
BC.
We bought like these VIP sandbar tickets, which sandbar is the floor of Kenny Chesney's concerts, if you don't know that. And because we were VIP, we got in early, so we stood at that stage. We were like the first people into the giant. I mean, this big empty arena. And it's us walking in right up to the stage. So I, had my chin on the stage like this. and we stood there for like 8 hours. He had 2 openers, just a lot of time before he finally came out. But when he did, getting to see Kenny performing like that, if you've never seen him live, he just puts 110% into his performances. He's so invested in what he does and his audience, and he loves the No Shoes Nation, which is what Kenny Chesney fans are called. So I got to like kind of hold his hand for a moment, and he sweated on me.
He filmed a music video in the parking lot, but we were already inside at the stage, waiting for the show to start.
He did, yeah. We would have been in the music video, but we chose the concert, and I'm glad we did, because to be able to experience that show literally at the stage was unbelievable. So that was my closest I came to meeting him. I hope one day maybe we'll run into him in the islands. That's actually how I prefer to meet him. And if I ever do meet him, we've talked about this a lot, because we hang out at a bar that Kenny likes. And we don't hang out there because Kenny likes it. I know about it because of his music, but we just love that bar and that island.
We're friends with the family that owns it now. And,
we are.
We spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, we live there when we vacation on that island. We live 10 steps from the bar in a little bungalow behind it, which is fantastic. But I always say, if he ever shows up there, I'm not going to be crazy fan. Kenny Chesney. I just want to walk up to him and say thank you. Thank you for what you've done for, number one, for the islands. After the hurricanes, he was first one in there helping. Thank you for telling the world about these islands and how amazing they are. I never would have found them that way. And thank you for what you've done for rum. And for me personally, for my journey into rum, your rum is what really, other than the St. Vincent rum, which was the first, but his rum is really what brought me into the spirit very, with such a passion for it, because it was multi-dimensional, right? It was travel, it was the rum itself, it was the music. So I just want to tell him thank you. That would kind of be the end of it.
Yeah, I said I would, say, hey man, can I buy you a drink? He's a normal guy, That's the way I treat celebrities. I don't, like she said, not gonna be like the fangirl, fanboy, like, oh my God, can you sign this? Can I get a picture? No, I'm gonna be like, hey, we're hanging out. You want a beer? I'm up here getting myself a rum.
Right.
And I think it would be a really neat experience to meet him in that kind of setting where it's chill.
The chill approach probably can work out in the long run, right? If you're cool about it. And our recent guest, Toby Tyler, One Drop Rum, lives, it's like I think the edge of the Bahamas and the island out there, and he's met a lot of musicians come through, and he's met Mick Jagger, and he had a story about Ronnie Wood coming in and jamming with him. But he was talking about Mick, and he goes, it's the one thing. He's like, don't talk about music, because then it's like he wants to talk about. So they talk about cricket and rugby and wine, other things that have interest, right? And again, it's like, hey, they're humans. I mean, again, it's kind of hard to kind of make sure you keep it a little throttled, but it's like, yeah, they're normal people too. And it's like, hey, let's talk about your job. Like, no, I don't want to talk about my job, right?
In that kind of setting, they're on vacation just like we are. We kind of crossed paths with John Lovitz. I didn't even approach the guy. I just, hey, there's John Lovitz. That's pretty cool. He stayed in the same hotel we are. That's pretty
I feel like John Lovitz is actually approaching people to tell them who he is.
Well, good point.
Well, it's funny. We only knew it was him. We were sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and he was checking out, and we heard his voice.
Oh.
We didn't even see
that's John Lovitz.
We heard his voice. It's like, is that John Lovitz?
No, I think at first we said, that guy sounds like John Lovitz. And we turned around and looked at him, it is John Lovitz.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Are you John Lovitz?
We didn't have to ask. Like, there was no question.
Right.
For sure.
But these, since you guys are, I know a wide range of music, but it's probably, obviously country fans as well, is what I learned on, if you go to Nashville, like in November timeframe, or down towards the end of the year, most of everybody's home off the road, and you can see all the bands, musicians are in the clubs, filling, jumping in, right? Whether it's the drummer from, and I met the drummer from Rascal Flats in a drumming clinic, and but it was just kind of it's interesting when you bump into people, or it's like our tiki bar down in Jupiter, right? The square grouper, right? Everyone's, and I was in Alan Jackson's bar in Nashville, and I said to the guy, I was like, oh yeah, they had a square grouper sign neon sign all the way down the man. He goes, oh yeah, it's interesting. He didn't get it. He knows the reference. I'm like, well, then I explained, I'm like, never mind. It's like the original one is, where it lives. So transitioning from rum to travel. So as you mentioned, you just returned from Hawaii. So when you travel though, what is the decision about, where you go? Is it, I think you kind of already said it, right? Is it the rum or is it the location? But I think you kind of already talked a little bit about that.
So she's the planner when it comes to travel. A lot of times she picks the destination, and I have no say in it.
Oh.
No, well, not that.
True. I try to involve
I'm
Joe,
exaggerating.
and it's not his thing. So I just tell him where and when to show up and what to pack, and he follows along, and he carries the heavy bags, so you're good for that.
And you're gonna have a good time, Joe.
Oh, and you go, yeah.
Well, what it comes down to is she knows a lot better what she's doing when she's planning our vacations. I've tried to plan trips, and I am so bad at it. But she can find the deals for airfare and hotels. She's excellent at picking locations. She's also very particular about the places that she likes to go. So if she's gonna like it, I'm probably gonna like it.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the decision-making process of where to go, that's definitely a fluid thing. Like what influences my decision on where we go, and COVID has thrown all that into a difficult place. So right now, I mean, I have to factor that in, like, what are the restrictions? How easy is it to go? Do we need a test? Do we need a quarantine? Blah, blah, blah. But if you put all that stuff kind of aside, I think right now, I found a place that is very near and dear to my heart that I absolutely love, that we will go to every year, probably several times a year for the rest of our lives, and that's the British Virgin Islands. But outside of that, if you kind of take out and New Orleans is another place that we always go every year. I try to do one new place every year, and that new place needs to be rum focused in some way, shape, or form. So we focus on the Caribbean because it is close, it's convenient, and I love it.
Right.
Joe loves it as well, and of course they make a ton of very diverse rum there. It's all different kinds of rum that are made down there. So for, I think, our next trip, whether it be, I guess 2020, maybe we'll try, or 2022, maybe we'll try to go somewhere new. It's a little tricky navigating the environment right now, but
right before, even a little bit before COVID, we were just discussing how we've never been to Jamaica, one of the most popular rum producing countries in the Caribbean.
We're ashamed to say that. But
and we have friends
reasons.
at many of the distilleries down there, and we still have not been.
Yeah, so there's 6 distilleries in Jamaica. So Jamaica is absolutely like next on the list once things are feasible. Because the tricky thing about visiting Jamaica for rum is the distilleries are not all in one place. And Jamaica is a large island, and you have to kind of traverse from one side to another to see everything.
No big highways.
No, it's mountainous.
Yeah, the roads are questionable in some of the
Yeah, I
areas.
mean, we've been on some tricky roads and some tricky islands.
Matter of fact, we had a Zoom with Zan from Worthy Park, and we were talking about it, and we were like, "How are the roads there right now, Zan?" And he's like, "They're all right."
Yeah.
So I guess it's hit or miss as to whether or not there's, whether you're going to get a smooth ride as you're going across the island.
But yeah, so the next new place that we go is probably either going to be Jamaica or Martinique. I'm also sad to say that I've never been really to any of the French islands. We have been to a part of Guadeloupe, which is called Les Saints. It's like a little out island of Guadeloupe, but they don't produce any rum there. But I am a huge agricole fan. I love that taste. It's odd, you would think, in my head, I'm like, why do I like this so much? And I can't really explain it, but it's such a pure spirit. Like if you taste freshly pressed sugarcane juice and then you taste an agricole rum, there's no question, where that rum came from. When you taste a molasses-based rum, I mean, some of them kind of have a hint of that molasses to them, but it's not like agricole. Agricole is like, wow.
Yeah.
And the flavor is just over the top. There's so much flavor in agricole. And I think I like a lot of French things. I don't yet speak French. I'm trying to work on that. It's very difficult when you're exposed to, here in Florida, there's a lot of Spanish, and I speak a little bit of Spanish.
Right.
So every time I try to learn French, the Spanish kicks
Reverts
in.
back into Spanish.
I have so much respect for people that can speak multiple languages, because I can barely hang on to one and then a little bit of a second one.
Well, there's a Google Translator now, right?
There is, absolutely. So I feel like
technology is our friend at this point.
but I've heard visiting Martinique, and there's a ton of distilleries in Martinique that you can get by without speaking French. You know, certain places you'll have a little trouble, but you can do okay.
It's lucky, you know. It's again, it goes back to we were talking about, you know, when you travel to other places, you leave the U.S. and you put things into perspective, right? And that, yeah, most of the world speaks more than one language, where this country is very few, right? Because most people, for the most part, can speak English as well as their native language. You know?
Right.
I mean, I know there's certain parts of the world, and you know, that probably don't, but.
Well, one of the things that just really amazes me is that there are so many people in the United States that don't even leave their hometown, much less their state or country.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many people in this country that just haven't taken the opportunity to travel and learn about other places.
Let alone like go to the country's capital, to go to Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, for most kids that do get an opportunity, you know, my kids were safety patrol and got to go to D.C. on their own. Let alone, you know, the parents letting them watch them go off on the Amtrak train and you know, but he's got to experience that. Right? But then it's like this is where your country, and again, it's a big country.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna be a challenge. If somebody's in Montana, you know, well, what do I care about that? But it's that opening yourselves up
Right.
to understand a bigger.
And the other part that amazes me is there's people that don't even want to. It's not that they don't have the means; they just have no interest.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's not for everybody.
It's
not
not,
everybody has that kind of adventurous spirit. Some of us got a little extra of that spirit, and it, like defines our life. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of why one of the reasons we do what we do is we want to show people what's out there, and how to make it happen, right? I mean, we're not billionaires. You know, we're average people. We don't have, you know, we're not retired, so we manage to do what we do very strategically, planning, you know, as far as time off from work and funds available to spend. You know, we make the most of that, and we like to kind of show people that it's possible to, you know, travel like rock stars without having the rock star salary to go with it.
So in that travel sense, I mean, that's a good point. Is have you ever thought about sharing a little bit more about that planning behind the scenes? You know, and helping showing a little bit more to folks, saying, hey, you know, here's how we did this, and you know, here's the budget, or you know, I don't know, you know, I mean.
Yeah, no, I have thought about that. We've actually thought about kind of getting into more of a travel planning like service, like putting trips together, specifically, you know, designed for what we do with rum. We did our first little Rum Traveler event. We took a bus trip to Lakeland, from Orlando to Lakeland to visit Lugo craft spirits there. They make patoros and they make a couple other things. And we got a group of, I think we had 30 of us. 40?
yeah, roughly, yeah.
I think it was a good crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good group. So I would say we, but I and that all of that. Put all that together. So that was kind of like our first kind of trial run at putting together a trip. Now, when you get into a real trip with flights and hotels, it gets much more complex. So I hope one day that we can kind of go that route and offer some travel, some prearranged travel trips for people. But yeah, in the meantime, we've thought about it. I don't like to give away all my secrets because if I did, then everybody would like snatch up all my little deals and take away all of the wonderful opportunities out there. But you know, there's lots of tips and tricks we've learned over the years in traveling and bringing back rum. I mean, we get asked about that a lot. You know, how do you bring that back? And
Yeah, I mean, the most we ever brought back, you aren't going to air this to the TSA or any of that.
I'm just not. I'm sure the FBI.
Anybody
not
from
listening,
customs
you know.
on the line? No.
Well, whatever you choose to you know, plead the fifth, or you know.
No,
Are you going to say you cannot confirm nor deny you've brought back anything from a country that is not allowed to?
it was more about the number of bottles we brought back on
Oh.
one specific trip.
You know, tax season is coming up, so you know what I'm saying.
I don't know the exact volume because there were varying size bottles, but we brought back, I think it was like 32 bottles on one trip. 36 just between the 4 bags that we
So
checked.
that's a lot, right?
Mhm.
Typical duty-free limit is 2 liters per person.
That's a
Sleep
duty free.
at the
So
customs
you
desk.
Well-
just be honest on your customs
Yeah,
form,
yeah.
right? And so if you go beyond your duty free limit, you have to pay duty, you have to pay
Yeah.
tax on the rum.
Yes.
It's a very, very, very small amount of money. So on $50 bottle of rum, it might be $2 or something. It's not like it's $20 or something substantial.
And I think a lot of times what they're looking for is people who are trying to bring cases in to sell them in package stores or in bars. Right?
Correct.
So, if you go over a little bit, they're not going to throw the book at you.
But you'd be
generally,
honest. Like, we're always honest on our form. We say how much we spent on the rum, how much rum we're bringing back in. But we put a dollar amount on there because that's kind of how the form is set up. So we say rum and a dollar amount. We don't itemize because there's not enough lines usually on the form for that. They only give you 5 or 6 lines. We're usually bringing back all kinds of stuff. Especially, I think that trip, that might have been one of the rum cruises. So we visited multiple islands. That's why we had so many bottles.
Right.
Yep.
Um,
Overbought on the first island.
Yeah, that's the hard thing.
Didn't
Kinda
save
don't-
space in the luggage for
If
the
you're going
rest.
to 5 islands on one trip, you go to the first island, you don't know what you're going to find on the others, so you're very excited when you buy.
We also
10
bought a
things.
new set of luggage too.
Right, and that happens on trips.
Well, that's
Right.
a tricky thing is fitting this into the bags. There's obviously 50 pounds is the standard weight
Keeping
limit
it
unless
under
you're
the weight
first
limit.
class. It's 65 pounds with first class. Sometimes we try to work that angle.
And most importantly, there's the TSA limit. You can't have more than, is it
It's
5 liters?
5 liters per
Per
bag.
bag.
Now that one you can't get around.
Yeah.
We learned that the hard way coming back from Grenada. We had fit within the weight limit of our bag, so we had some smaller suitcases, and we put seven 750 milliliter bottles, which
Right.
is more than 5 liters, right? We didn't know about this law. We knew about the 2 liter duty free, but we didn't know there was this other thing. It's the TSA regulation. It's because they don't want that much liquid
Mhm.
on the plane, right?
But they do have the allowance. If it's under a certain alcohol percentage, you can bring more.
Yeah.
It's
Correct.
just-
So this is for I think it's 20-something% alcohol and above. So like wines would not qualify. Some of the cordials and the rum
Okay.
liqueurs
Liqueurs that are
would not
liqueurs,
qualify. We joked one of the bottles we had on that trip was Foxy's Firewater rum, which is from a little island called Jost Van Dyke, and it's called Firewater rum because it's overproof, obviously. But it's a little beach bar, right? So when we bought it, they're like, yeah, I guess we have some. Hang on, I got to put a label on there. And they stick the label on the bottle like that didn't have a label on it before. So the label actually does not specify proof. It doesn't say what the proof is. So we probably
might
could have
been able to
argued
get-
that way.
If it didn't say firewater, we might have been able to get away with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, nobody
We're
knows.
taking firewater on a plane.
But on that specific trip, I had to leave 2 bottles of rum behind because of that 5-liter limit in the bag. So it was like Sophie's choice. I had to decide which ones I was not going to be bringing back with me.
And they had called us, they had called him over the intercom in the airport, which we barely heard because it's an island airport, you can barely hear those announcements anyway. And I was like, I think I heard horse camp, which is his last name. It was kind of like that. I'm like, that sounds like horse camp. You better go check. And sure enough, it was him. So he went by himself. And you couldn't call me or text me. One little message got through, but it's the islands, you can't really. So he had to decide on his own which baby to leave behind.
Luckily, one of the ones I was buying was one I could find in the U.S. The other one, we had been to the island several times, and I knew we'd probably be back eventually. So I made the best choice I could, and then we realized that another thing we were bringing back qualified for that lower alcohol. So we could have kept one more bottle.
Yeah, had we
And it
known
was
that
The whole
more,
face
so-
palm.
You're having a big party in the concourse there,
Oh yes,
Yeah.
well we've had that St. Vincent rum. We've had that taken from us, and at the airport there because we didn't know it wasn't allowed. So
Yeah.
you're not allowed to fly with anything that's above 150 proof, I believe it is.
Okay.
There's a set proof for flammability.
Makes sense, yeah.
And they don't like that. Although I don't think my little bottle of rum is what's going to bring down this jet airplane. It might be the 10,000 pounds of jet fuel. That's a little more flammable than my little bottle of rum. But anyway, the first time we did it, we kind of didn't know about that, and they took it at the screening there
In Barbados.
in Barbados, and we're like, well, at least we know they're having a good time tonight with our rum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we wonder how many bottles of that 169 proof rum that they party with in Barbados.
A lot.
Well, that's just it. How many people are going to be arguing with customs, right? And if things are maybe not in the up and up. So how many countries have you visited?
I don't have my list in front of me. At least 30, I think it is.
Okay. Wow.
So mostly
Mostly Caribbean.
Caribbean. We have been to Fiji.
Mm.
And have we been to any other country? I mean, we've been to
No.
Central America a little bit. We went to Belize,
Honduras.
Honduras. I think all the other countries. We've never been to Europe.
Mm.
And Europe's a tricky thing. I mean, maybe one day we'll get there.
We know there's a couple of rum fests out there we want to
Mm.
hopefully eventually go to, and now we know they're producing rum in Scotland, so
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, they produce rum. They absolutely age a lot of rum there too.
Yeah.
So they'll get Caribbean rum, bring it over, and age it in.
we've
in
got
Europe.
invited to a place to stay in France.
Yeah, we just met a couple from Berlin. They were telling us all about the Berlin Rum Festival, which is apparently, fantastic. And I've heard that from other people as well. So it's just, you put Germany next to Jamaica, in my eyes, is a little tricky, right? Not to say anything bad about Germany. I'm sure it's a beautiful country. But for me, it's
Always back
gonna
to the
take
white sand and the
I'm a
blue
beach
water.
girl. I always will be. You're gonna have a hard time getting me somewhere that's less than 80 degrees. Even if they have all the rum in the world.
Including today.
Right. I think it's probably warmer in Germany right now than it is here.
So what's the plans for this year?
So this year, I'll answer that since Joe has no
I
idea.
don't plan anything.
So we just,
Should you not spoiler alert?
well, I think you
Well,
know,
I know where we're going. I just
if he listens
don't
to all
know
my,
the details.
Oh, okay.
it's funny, like I'll talk to him for like 10 minutes about planning and destination, and I'm like, were you listening to any of that? Do you even care? Should I just do it?
Caribbean, 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, so we just did a week in Kauai. So in March we are going to Yosemite in the British Virgin Islands. So that's my favorite place, I think. It's hard to pick a favorite, but it's hard to say that it's not my favorite because I love it. That's March. In July, we will probably be in New Orleans for Tales of the Cocktail because it looks like that's going to come back this year in person, which we wouldn't miss
Fingers
for the
crossed.
world.
It's such a great time.
And then,
There's so much, like you said, there's so much in New Orleans outside of Bourbon Street, right?
oh my gosh, yeah,
Oh.
we often don't even go to Bourbon Street. We might have to cross it to get where we're going,
Right.
but we don't spend any
We
time.
stop in Lafitte's once in a while.
I'll make an excuse for Lafitte's. And then after that, I haven't locked it in just yet, but I believe in October we're going to go back to Yosemite for 2 more weeks.
Okay.
So I've got a little
You're plan.
I won't call it a timeshare, but I bought into a really good deal to stay at our little beach bar. I bought a bunch of weeks there, so actually I purchased 12 weeks. We will have used 4, so I have 8 more.
I think you actually purchased all their beach chairs, tables, and flags, and everything.
Well, the
that
great
have
thing
been drawn up.
about it's a little tiny place, right? And so it got completely flattened by Irma. There was nothing left, and so they've been rebuilding since 2017. And this package, I'm basically giving the money directly to the family, and they use that money to buy beach chairs and picnic tables and signs and
Fix
plywood.
up and enhance the
So
place. Yeah.
it's so cool. I mean, I'm so excited I got to do that. That's why I bought so much of it. Partly it's a great deal, but also like getting to see your tourist dollars literally
Put it back
going
in.
into this place.
Because we know where that money, we know exactly what it's being used for.
Right.
It's because it's the only money they have coming in. I mean, they have other patrons
From the
and everything,
bar and
but
stuff, but it's a tiny place.
we
so.
joke because it was literally the week after. It wasn't even a week. It was like 3 or 4 days after we got back from a trip. She had brand new beach chairs out front,
Yep.
and we're like, and she had just bought the package for additional weeks there, and she's like, I know where that money went.
Yeah. So right now, that's what we have on the table. I would love to get to either Jamaica or Martinique, but with COVID, we did a trip to Barbados, and that was really challenging from the COVID perspective. The British Virgin Islands we've been to, we went twice last year. We also went to the U.S. Virgin Islands. We actually go through St. Thomas when we go to the BVI. But we know what we're dealing with there. We know what their regulations are. We know how to work with it. We know how we're going to be treated when we get there. So going to another country, especially one that we haven't been to, is iffy right now. And I think we're just holding off on that until maybe one day, hopefully this COVID thing ends.
Yeah.
Or at least dies down.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's waiting to like last guest, Anton. You know, he's in Spain and he's part of the family that Numbers on Havana Club, and he's like, come to Spain, and again, that bottle that they have, that they started back up, it's only can get in Europe. It's not here in the US yet. So I mean, they're looking, I think, for a partner or a company to import. He's like, you're welcome here. I go, don't worry, I got my passport. I said, I'm ready to go, and so forth. So, all right, so you guys ready for your rapid fire here?
The hot seat moment.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's right. That's right.
Get another drink of water.
That's
Yeah.
right. I don't get a chance to do two for ones on the. All right, so in this segment here is what we call for our drummers. We call in 4 beats or less, but you guys are rummers, so this is in 4 sips or less.
Okay.
Okay. So again, these are
No.
questions to come to mind. Don't overthink them. So forth.
So are we both answering? Or
Yes, I'll tell you if any specific questions are for one of you, but just the questions are for each of you to answer.
Gotcha. All right, let's do it.
In 4 sips or less, neat or on ice?
Neat.
Okay, there you go. It's almost like like the newlywed game.
Yes, well, we answer the same.
Yes. In 4 sips or less. So in your favorite cocktail, the daiquiri, what rum?
Depends on the day.
That's a tough one. Yeah, it depends on what's at hand.
I'm-
A white rum, overproof white rum.
Overproof night. Yep,
Okay, all right, okay.
I agree.
All right, Missy, here's yours.
Okay.
So as we talked about music and talked about Kenny Chesney, I know you're also a big fan of someone else.
Yeah,
So Kenny or Prince?
it's got to be Kenny.
Ooh, okay.
It does.
All right.
Without hesitation.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
that's a
surprised,
tough-
huh?
A little
Well,
bit.
it's a little broader than music, right?
Okay. All right.
But-
Okay.
That explains. Yeah, that
If
makes
we're
sense.
going specifically just on music and nothing else and isolating, then it would be.
I like that
Prince.
this spurred a little bit of a conversation there, right? All right, Joe. So I was going to ask you about, a place that you haven't visited yet, but it sounds like we've already kind of talked about some of those things. But I'm going to switch it up a little bit through our conversation this afternoon and ask you this, because I definitely see you guys as this. But Joe, would you guys go on an Amazing Race?
Absolutely.
So there you
Believe it or
go.
not, we
We
auditioned
auditioned.
for
Did
the
you?
Amazing Race.
A couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was one of those casting call things
Mhm.
where you went
Yeah.
and a bunch of people went at the same time, and we didn't know that they were just gonna put us in a room and say go.
It was a video audition on site,
Okay.
which gave us, what was it, a minute?
I
It was
think
like
like-
60 seconds to kind of do our spiel.
90 seconds, something.
Something like that.
I thought someone would be asking us questions.
Yeah.
It would be like an
we thought
interview.
it would be
Okay.
like
And we didn't know until they sat us down. They just said, okay, go.
we're staring at the camera like.
We're like, you have 90 seconds, go. Why should you be on Amazing Race?
So we had a choice of either doing the in-person, application, or doing a video and sending it in. And we thought, we're really good. We have good personalities. We have good conversations with people. Let's just do the interview one, because the video one you sent in, they gave you more time. I think it was like a minute and a half or 2.5 minutes. You got like an extra minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we kind of had an idea, like if we were doing a video one, we could script it, we could figure out what we wanted to say, but then you're put down for a 90-second video interview in a chair, and you're like, oh, good Lord, what am I supposed to say here?
Yeah. So I don't know that we did so great with that.
No.
And we always said we would do the video audition and try it again, and just never got around to it and then go with them. And so I think they're doing it again, right? Like
Yeah,
they started it back
we-
up.
We've been watching it. Well, they've been watching it at home, and it's the episode where it was paused in the middle of COVID. It's interesting because
Wow.
they were taping it, and then you see
They
like
sent them home.
COVID.
Did they
For
really?
19
COVID
months.
shutdown happened, and then they sent them home, and
For 19 months.
yeah.
Wow.
And then, okay, come back if you want to come back. And not everybody decided to come back.
Oh,
We think
okay.
it was the fall of last year they started back.
November of last year.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the Naked and Afraid show?
Yes.
There was an episode of that. I think the guy was in
Oh, wait,
South
I thought you were
America
going to tell me
somewhere.
you're wrong.
No.
Whoa!
I am not doing naked and afraid, and it's not the naked, it's the dirty.
This is not
I think
our
things.
experience. I'm just piggybacking
Okay.
off of the COVID story. But it was a guy in, I don't know if he was in Costa Rica or it was someplace
I think it was Central
foresty,
America.
Central America somewhere. And his partner had tapped out. He had like I think a week to go,
Yeah.
and they came and got him and said, "We got to pull you out." And he's like, "What?" And he's like, I want to finish this. I only have a week left." And they're like, "There's a global pandemic. We got to get you home, or we might not be able to." And so he got pulled out of the challenge with
Yeah.
a week left.
Oh, that's...
And
So-
he didn't get, that show, you don't get the opportunity to resume,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
They
it's
should have
kind
just
of.
gave him the money. It wasn't his fault.
I don't
Yeah.
think they win. I don't think they get any money.
No, I think it's
for
all
Naked and
about.
Afraid.
Well, they gotta do something.
They give them like
maybe
$10,000
compensate
or something. I don't think it's like a large amount of money.
Well, I don't know. If what we know now, I would almost be like, I'm fine on my little isolated island because nobody else is around.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I bet that guy's like, I wish I would have stayed. I wish they would have let me
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah.
But
Come back and get me later.
we didn't audition for Naked and Afraid, but we did, however, audition for House Hunters.
Oh.
We almost got on House Hunters when we bought our first home here in Florida, moving from Maryland to Florida. We interviewed with the producers, did this whole thing, and it came down to our realtor was a female, and they had already had too many female realtors on the show. So they didn't want to use our realtor, they wanted a male realtor, so we tried to, switch it around, and it didn't happen. So
Oh, bummer.
that was a bummer. We really wanted to do that. That would have been fun.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, we learned some spoilers about House Hunters that kind of ruined the show for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you learn how something's done, all the behind
How
the scenes
sausage
stuff,
making is done, or,
And now you're like,
or,
oh.
or how the rum is made, and right.
the veil has been pulled back.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
Joe, I thought we were gonna say, maybe we need to work on a night show idea called Rum and Afraid.
I like that.
There
I
you
like
go.
that.
Yes.
Or naked and rum. Let's pull
Ooh.
one.
Oh, well, sometimes the rum causes the nakedness. So
Correct.
anyway, all right.
Whole
Yes.
show.
Not
Yes.
sure we should go that direction with
So we're
it.
gonna save this extra content for our Patreon.
Rum fully exposed.
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
Love it.
So all right, excellent. So all right. So in closing here, so what do we want folks to check out? Website stuff or any particular charities. I know you talked about a little bit about the islands, or here you go. Here's the shameless plug promotion, right?
All right, so I'll roll with that since Joe doesn't really handle any of that stuff. I do all that work too. He mostly just drinks the rum, I think.
Oh, that's perfect, man.
I know, right?
All right.
I'm the muscle and I drink the rum.
There you
That's,
go.
That's
Right,
correct.
yeah,
Which
right.
I climb up on the
There
ladder.
you go.
He gets the bottles from up top. Yes, so our website is rumtraveler.com, so without the S. On social media, we're on Facebook as Rum Traveler. On Instagram, it's the _rum_traveler. You just type in Rum Traveler, we should come up. We're on Twitter as well. I use Facebook and Insta more than I use Twitter, but you'll see the same content on Twitter. We have a YouTube channel as well, also Rum Traveler.
Not a lot of content on it, but we're
We're
working on it.
I
We're
promise.
getting
We
there.
are not video production specialists. We're rum enthusiasts and travelers, so we don't have anybody to help us do the video. We have to do it ourselves, so there's a learning curve. But we are putting some content out there. There's a couple of cocktail videos we did during the lockdown. There's also, we did one video on Epcot, like where to find good rum in Epcot. We have one coming for Animal Kingdom. And then we're going to start to get into more about our traveling and the places we've gone and the things that
We
we've
should
done.
have some video from our Barbados trip at some point. Once I get the Animal Kingdom video done, we'll start pulling that together and then hopefully have something up soon.
And then since you mentioned it, charity-wise, not rum related at all, but become very near and dear to my heart, there is an organization in the British Virgin Islands called PAW, BVI, P-A-W, BVI. So they're an animal rescue organization. They spay and neuter dogs and cats on the island. If you've never been to the Caribbean islands, a little different than here in the States. There's a lot of stray animals, a lot of unwanted litters of animals that they spay and neuter. But then for the animals that are born on the island, they have a program where if you're flying to the USVI or BVI, you can volunteer as a flight escort for dogs and cats, mostly dogs, but they do fly cats sometimes. because they have puppies and kittens that need homes, and they partner with organizations throughout the United States. So even if you're not, in Florida, they partner with other ones as well. But we did this recently in October. We volunteered to escort 2 adorable little puppies home, and we brought them to the Greater Pet Alliance of Orlando, up in Sanford. And these 2 little puppies found a home. They almost had a home here at the Rum Traveler house.
We originally, the plan was for somebody to meet us in Miami and bring them to one of the organizations there in Miami, but I guess they didn't have fosters or a place to take care of them, so we volunteered to drive them to Orlando from Miami, and they had to overnight here in Sebastian. So
That was killer. 2 little adorable puppies spending the night in your house, and then you have to give them up the next day. I mean, I almost didn't let go of the carrier when the
get a little more attached to them when they're running around your own house.
But it's such a great experience. It doesn't cost you anything. They pay for the ferry fees and the airplane fees to bring the pet along. It couldn't have been easier. I mean, we didn't have any problems at all. And these puppies traveled for like 12 hours. They were in their little carrier, and we didn't have any issues at all. No potty issues, no sicky issues. They did fantastic. So if you're ever flying into St. Thomas, or into Tortola there, check out PAW BVI, and see if you volunteer to escort a couple of cute little puppies or kittens back to the States to find homes.
Very cool. All right. Well, all right. Maybe we'll travel to the BVI.
Your son would never give up a cat.
That's right. Yeah, it's 3 against 1 to get a cat in our house, and I'm the lone holdout. So we won't talk about that. That'll get me in trouble. So, all right, excellent. So I'd like to thank Joe and Missy for coming on the podcast and talk about rums and traveling, and so check out our podcast. Like I said, it will be available on February 8th, so just before Valentine's Day. So the perfect, our couples podcast here, and also check out other great episodes out there. So follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe to Facebook, rate us, all those things that you're supposed to do so I can quit my day job. And the website, drumsandrums.com. And thank you all. Have a great day. This is Paul. We're back Beats Beats Spirits. Thank you guys.
Thank you for having us on.
Yes, thank you for inviting us. Yes, there you go. Great.